Welcome everyone to the Lost World Museum. My name is John Adolfi and we are going to talk about a hot topic. Did dinosaurs and humans once walk at the same time? Now, from an evolutionary perspective, from a 4.51 billion year timetable that science and modern geology has set for us, the answer is absolutely no way. However, there are two ways to interpret, scientifically, if you might want to say, the evidence that we see on the Earth. Fossils, history, the evidence, the strata. Two ways to describe it, two ways to interpret it. And that is the creationist point of view also. And from a creationist point of view, the answer the answer, if dinosaurs and humans walked hand in hand, foot in foot, the answer is absolutely a resounding yes, they did. So let's take a look at some of the evidence. Now, this is by no means, the few moments that we're going to share together here on this live, that's not going to be something that is going to be comprehensive. I'm just going to show you a few things. You evaluate it for yourself, okay? So first off, from an evolutionary perspective, when did dinosaurs rule the Earth? And the answer is a couple 100 million years ago to 65 or 66 million years ago when a asteroid slammed into the Yucatan Peninsula. That's the latest as far as theories. And somehow, and forgive me, I can't give you the full scenario. If you want to look it up and read it yourself and see if it's very plausible, somehow that smashing into the Earth destroyed all of the dinosaurs. All of them, for the most part. Now, you could make an argument that certain lizards, Tuatara, eventually the alligator, some reptiles did make it, sure. But for the most part, the Brontosaurus, the T-Rex, the Triceratops, the Brachiosaurus, the, Acrocanthosaurus, all of them died. Every single one of them. There wasn't any cave that could hide them. There wasn't any refuge whatsoever. They all died. And in the process, some got fossilized. I don't really quite honestly get it. And I know that someone's going to take that and say, that's right, you don't. Well, look, it doesn't take a genius to try to piece this together. It doesn't. I'm a prime example of that. But when we do look at certain evidences, it begs the question, is it true that our timetable is not 4.51 billion years? Let's talk about just the fossil record itself of 600 million years for the most part. You could bring that back to the one-celled animals 1 billion years ago, but let's just talk about something that is more fully formed. 600 million year fossil record is squished from the creationist perspective to 4,400 and 6,000 years ago. What? That's right. 6,000 years ago is when life was created, not the earth, not the rock on the earth, but life. 4,400 years ago, there was a global flood, as pointed out in the book of Genesis, and 500 legends from people groups throughout the world. These are ancient legends talking about this one event where the entire earth was inundated with water. Okay. If humans and dinosaurs walked together, when did they walk together? Well, they would have walked together before the flood. For whether or not dinosaurs, now I'm not talking I'm talking all dinosaurs. Now, whether dinosaurs were all a product of a creator, or if someone did a little bit of gene splicing and we see some kind of grotesque looking almost machines of war out of some of these dinosaurs, whether they were manufactured or whether they were created, that's up for debate. But when they walked together would have been that first 1,600 years. Now, we would really have no evidence of the first 1,600 years because if you go with the evolutionary or the creationist account, everything was pretty much wiped out during that 371-day period 4,400 years ago. And that the fossil record, the strata, is all been set up as a result, or that is all a result of that year-long great deluge called the worldwide flood. Now, so anything that would have been recorded would either have to have been dead and buried together or footprints in stone, whether it was during the worldwide flood or shortly after, before and a lot of it is limestone, the limestone hardened. It's like the earth was coated in layers of cement, mud. The dinosaurs and whatever else went in that mud and then it hardened. What does limestone look like? This is what it looks like right here. This was taken from the Paluxy River in Glen Rose, Texas. I love limestone. It's very beautiful. And when the sun beats on it, when you have a lot of it, it looks just so beautiful and white. I understand the pyramids were covered with this originally, and it would have been a very beautiful sight to behold. Geologists, modern day evolutionary bent geologists, date this right here at somewhere between 65 million to 140 million. It may go beyond that, but for the most part, and in the Texas area where this was found, that area is right around 100, 108, 103 million years old. Okay, so if we're going to find anything in the limestone, it would be dinosaurs during that period of time. And sure enough, we do find dinosaur prints. This was taken from Dinosaur National Park, Dinosaur Valley National Park in Glen Rose, Texas. And this was one of the dinosaur tracks that was lifted. This isn't the original. This is a copy of the original. It was lifted through plaster and rubber and all sorts of materials to make this right here. Okay. So these dinosaurs imprinted their foot in limestone mud, according to evolution, 100 or so million years ago. Okay. Do we have anything that challenges that paradigm and gets us closer to the idea of whether or not humans and dinosaurs walk together? The answer is yes. Let me show you something here. True story. In the same limestone, this is a replica of the original, in the same limestone, we have a giant cat print. And this was in that area. Okay? And it doesn't really matter what layer of limestone we're talking about. I don't know of anyone dating any limestone in that Texas area any earlier or possibly earlier than 65 million years. I don't think we're talking about 200,000 years ago that there was more limestone laid down. This right here is a cat print. This can't be any less than 10,000, any more than 350,000 years ago. And yet it's in Cretaceous. So the question is, all right, so the question is, what's this doing in limestone? It shouldn't be there. It shouldn't. Now, here's evidence number one, and you guys can. So the point of this is that it collapses the timetable. Should this be a mammal print, what it certainly looks like, in limestone, which it is, I've seen the original, then that means that this lion is in the same strata as dinosaurs. That shouldn't be. Unless, of course, the limestone was laid down during the worldwide flood and they were fleeing the area or trying to navigate through it all, and they imprinted either right after the flood or during it, and their track was captured. Now, in 1964, some men who were working around the Paluxy River, and they were taking out stone for homes and whatnot, they saw something in the water. It took them about a week to cut it out. And it was 4 by 4 feet by about 4 or 5 inches thick. They took their time because they didn't want to break it. They brought it to someone who recognized it as something of importance. This is what it looked like. Now, this is a replica of the original. Let me explain. The original was found in 1964, cut out of the riverbed and brought to a creationist who happened to be a geologist and worked in the oil fields. And his name was Billy Caldwell. This is called the Caldwell track. This track right here is approximately 16 inches tall or long. And the criticism, even the original, was that it was just too perfect. Well, they spotted this and they cut it out. They sold it to a man that brought it to the 1964-65 World's Fair in New York City. And after the World's Fair was done, after it went on display, it went back to the individual that bought it for $800, and it's never been seen since. However, they do have a first generation copy of it at the Creation Evidence Museum in Glen Rose, Texas. Now, I met with Billy Caldwell, and I had purchased this already before I met Billy Caldwell and interviewed him. He's 91 years old, and he said that the original first generation replica print cast of the original, excuse me, is in the Glen Rose, Texas Museum, Creation Evidence Museum. Well, I'm familiar with that museum, but I never saw it. He told me exactly where it was. I went there, saw it, and I took this and put it next to it. I wanted to see if they were similar, or if there was sort of like, when you print something, it sometimes gets a little obscured, or it's not, looks like the original. It looked just like the original. So what you're seeing here looks exactly like that first generation. And that first generation looks exactly like the original. But there is nothing like the original. The original, unfortunately, is lost. Maybe somebody will step forward. This is in limestone, friends. 65 to 140 million year, according to modern geology and paleontology and paleoanthropology. This should not be there. Did dinosaurs and humans walk together? Well, their footprints are in the same type of limestone. What do you think that means? It means that it's very possible. Now, if that's true, that matches right up with a creationist worldview. It says that there were giants on the world in those days, and there was a worldwide flood. Ta-da! This person would have been about 7 to 8 feet tall, had we get a chance to meet him today. Now, the Delk print is highly controversial. Kristen, can you get me some water? Yep. This right here is a photograph of the Delk print. You can understand why this print is under suspect. Because, just one second here. Well, for obvious reasons. That they believe is an Acrocanthosaurus, and that is a 10.5-inch footprint, human footprint. It seems too convenient. It looks too good. But they've done spiral CAT scans of this. They have found compression, which means it's not carved. But again, it looks too good to be true. Should this prove itself to be true? And yes, there is one critic, Glenn Cuban. You can look him up. Cuban with a K. He's got a full report on how this isn't true. But there are others that believe it's true. Now, there are creationist organizations that don't get behind this. I think it just looks too good to be true. And the criticisms are not enough that they want to take a more conservative stand. I get it. But I wanted to present this to you because, well, it's up to you to make the decision whether or not. Take a nice look at that. It's up to you whether or not you want to believe this is true or not. And it's up to the evidence. So far, the evidence seems to check out. Is there anything else that we have? Yeah, this one. You may want to pan this one. You may want to grab a hold of this one. Now, this is a painting, and it's called The Death of Saul. Saul was the king of Israel 3,000 years ago, the first king. And let me see, where's poor Saul? Poor Saul is meeting his end right over here. So let me just get the reflection off. Saul is... Well, it doesn't really matter where Saul is. But what does matter is that there are some dinosaur-like creatures in here. Let me show you. It might be a little bit difficult to see, but you've got one here, and you've got two right here. Now, this painting was created in 1562. Some have suggested that these aren't dinosaurs, they're camels. When you take a really close look at these, they look like brontosaurus-like creatures. They don't really look like camels. And I've seen camels from the 1100s, 1400s, and the artist renditions of camels, because not many people in Europe saw camels, you know. And they look a little bit odd, but they don't look like that. So there you go. There's a few things that, you know, you can kick around. Now, if you want to just dismiss all this stuff, that's fine. But you also have, you know, the Genesis account, written by the former commander of the Egyptian army, Moses, endorsed by Jesus, Paul, and Peter. And they were separated by about 1,400 years. So it's not like there was a collusion or something where they could, you know, basically say, hey, listen, psst, you know, let's go ahead and just, you know, verify this is true when it's not. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this in the so you should be able to see this in the products below. We're just now publishing the paper version of Valley of the Giants. In this 78-page book, you have got pictures of giant humans and what looks like to be giant humans and dinosaur prints side by side. These photos were taken from the Paluxy River in Glen Rose, Texas. The humans in here are large. Their footprints are up to 22 inches. Their strides are up to 6 to 7 feet, which means they were 12 feet tall. They're in the same strata as the dinosaurs. Some say that this has been debunked, that it's not true, that these photographs of these are just photographs of dinosaurs of human footprints that look like human footprints, but aren't human footprints. I'll let you see for yourself. We created this book, reprint of others, enhanced it, made it large, color where we could, and so there you have it. All right, that's it for now. I do want to invite you guys, for those of you that want to get cozy with us, here you go. That's our text number. It's only good for the United States and Canada. And there's people on here tonight, 260 of them were alerted just before we went on YouTube Live. And that's what we do. And we also do a few giveaways. So if you want to text that number and say, hey, John, what's up? I'll say, hey, Bob, hey, Mary, welcome to the museum text group. It's free. Again, United States and Canada only. All right. Take a screenshot of that or go ahead and rewind if you need to, and it'll be in the description as well. Thank you for taking the time to come on our live, and we've got many other videos on YouTube you can watch. And for those of you that love TikTok or Facebook, just look us up, Lost World Museum. I'm John Adolfi, asking the provocative and important question, where did we come from? Was it apes, aliens, or Adam? And you guys have a good night.